Hi, everyone. My name is Chisholm. I'm the founder and CEO of LeaseUp and the host of the Shift podcast. In today's episode, we're being joined by Marissa Limsiaco. Marissa is the co-founder of Otso, which is one of my favorite products in commercial real estate technology and in prop tech today. Unfortunately, there's no video. Marissa and I were able to connect at the amazing CREI conference that took place this year in New Orleans. But Marissa and I go deep on the utilization of technology, the changes that exist in prop tech today, some of the tech fatigue that exists in the industry, and how as founders, we can hopefully kind of cut through the noise by just providing fantastic and easy to use products. So excited for this episode today. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to The Shift. So Marissa, thanks so much for joining us here on The Shift. Tell us a little bit about your background. What was your journey into building Otso?
Yeah, thanks, Kurt. Well, it was pretty untraditional background to Otso. So backing all the way to the beginnings of my professional career, I was actually in the military because I went to West Point. So got my Iraq T-shirt and then got out. And for the better part of the last decade, I've been in commercial real estate, solving problems through technology. And Otso really came about from Josh Feinberg, my co-founder, and I's perspective as owners, and the frustration of just the exposure that we feel in every deal, in every lease deal with tenants, that there's always a gap between what you collect in collateral and what you're actually putting down, leaving you exposed. So solving our own problems as owners is really what led us to Otso.
That's fantastic. And can you dive in, double click real quick on the product that Otso is right now? It's such a great company, such a great product you provide to the market.
Yeah, we've really evolved and turned into what we like to say the tenant risk experts in the industry. We help landlords mitigate losses and offload risk through two programs. One being we have a bond that landlords can use as an alternative to traditional cash deposits, letters of credit. And that's really a win-win solution because it allows landlords to collect more than they typically would. And they can collect more because it doesn't require the tenants to lock up any capital. We cover every instance of default. And so that's really taken off in the industry. And then our other program involves tenant risk scores. So a lot of our customers with the bond had asked, you guys can underwrite tenants for your bond really well. We don't have any post-lease monitoring. And so we evolved another product that allows landlords to understand the true risk of tenants and their assets, as well as monitor them throughout the cycle of the lease.
I think there's like some products you see in the market in PropTech today. They're like, that's a no-brainer. Why has that not existed for the last 20 years? And I think Otso honestly is one of those. Do you think about that at all? Like why you guys had to build this and it didn't exist previously?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're a prop tech founder in this industry,
Right.
and you were in this industry as a broker as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So there's, I think overall in the industry, there's just this big generational wealth, frankly,
Yeah.
of the ups and downs. Despite the ups and downs of the economy, people are still making a lot of money.
Right.
And so despite that, there's very little incentive to want to change, especially like the older generation. Anything involving technology, there was a lot of resistance to that.
Right.
So I think that's a factor. And just really status quo of this is how we've always done deals, and we're bringing an entirely new option that no one had ever thought of before.
Yeah, sometimes I feel as though like the complexity was purposely created, and how opaque the industry was purposely created just to kind of keep the value from the people who are brokering deals or involved with deals and things like that. If it's complex, then you have people that can actually solve that and they can provide value and then charge for it.
It's like the theme across the industry, right? Even from a data perspective, and just information is kept very, very close.
Yep.
But I do think that that's soon to evolve.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Which is exciting.
I want to just talk a little bit about your military background, particularly. What are some of the core things that you've taken from your military training and experience and kind of brought into this business? And I'm particularly interested in how you've been able to kind of coach others around you and influence others around you to kind of adopt some of the things that you've learned in your time in the military.
Yeah, I think two of the main, I think, pillars of skill sets that I brought from being in West Point and the military and deploying to combat was number one, grit
Yeah.
and problem solving. And I talked to a lot of military folks and veterans getting out, and it's hard to translate those skills over. But what I try to explain to them is it's like you don't realize the core foundational skills that we learn in the military leadership, knowing how to adjust when things go wrong, performing under pressure. Those are all very, very valuable skills in this world. Organizing, like how to manage. I was in charge of over 100 people at one point at like 26 years old.
Wow.
And I didn't realize that was like not a lot of other 26-year-olds that had that type of responsibility.
Right, it was just your world. Yeah.
And so those two things have really just, especially as an entrepreneur, having that grit, as and just having that optimistic mindset to get to the mission and goal that you've set before you. That's very aligned with what we did in the military, and the mindset we needed to have in the military. And then just, yeah, like I love that is what I love, is just leading people. Is really just, I have a very selfless service servant leadership mindset, and that building a team is just like, for me, it's like seeing other people excel and exceed around me that are smarter than you. Frankly, you always want to work with people smarter than you. So those are the two things that I feel like I brought over.
Yeah, and I think for you two, like in the military, it seems like you have to make such incredible planning that goes into missions and operations, but you all know that never do plans go accordingly, right? And it's how you react to that. And certainly I can immediately see how that can translate into business, right? You always create plans and ways you want to attack the market, but the market will dictate for you what actually is going to end up happening. So yeah, it seems like there's just a lot of overlaps there.
Yeah,
that's really exciting. We talked for a moment about the tech adoption woes as they exist.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit about, you said you think that that's changing, and now people are going to be potentially looking to adopt technology more. Can you talk about kind of what you're seeing in the market that's pointing toward that?
I think that there is a lot of, I don't think that there's ever been a shortage. And I think we're at a point now where there's not a shortage of data. There's a lot of data available out there. I think I think our company is doing this as well, is finding value in translating that data into very digestible ways that owners or just folks in our industry can understand, and people seeing, okay, this is awesome. For example, like, isn't it crazy that your acquisitions, you're spending all of this money and you get estoppels and everything, but you don't even know like the risk of that rent roll.
Right.
And we're here to help you with that now, with the data. That's always been actually, this data is not just popped up today.
Right.
So I think that, and what I'm seeing too, from a founder perspective and the new companies such as yourself coming around, that I think is extremely positive, is partnerships. And us realizing, and us at Otso, we have multiple partners, because we realize that, and I've gotten this feedback from the industry, is just there's a lot of niche products out there. Give me something comprehensive.
Right.
And we are the first to raise our hands to know that, like, there's things that others do better than us, but we can leverage, and we both have the same customer base. So I think that culture amongst founders is starting to evolve, whereas like 10 years ago, it was very territorial. I felt a lot more like, I don't want to share my idea with you, and not as collaborative as it is today.
Yeah, I think like 2023 and then especially 2024, like the years of the API, as I'm calling it, because I feel like there's going to be all sorts of different connections that are going to start to happen with all these solutions that are being used in the tech stack of the brokerages, and they want them to communicate to each other, right? I think it's a huge opportunity. And the ones that don't play well in the sandbox are obviously going to be in trouble, because now you have the end users like demanding cooperation. That's never been the case in this industry, right? And it's going to be so fascinating.
And I think too, founders, and I know we've learned this lesson, disruption, revolution has been trigger words, like in a bad way
Yeah.
to the industry, because you had so many companies coming out and being like, I'm going to disrupt, and they get funded and they're gone.
Right.
Right. So there's that loss of like trust. Whereas I think our mentality, especially from a messaging standpoint, I know this will lead into some of the other conversations we'll have in this session, is we're here to just like be an additional tool in your toolbox. Yeah. And even from our perspective, and our customers, like we're not here to give you a new dashboard to learn. Right. We're here, we can API right in, just like you said, we have an API that could fill your data lake and fill into whatever platform you are already in. Right. So positioning as a way of like enhancing and realizing we need to make it easy for our customers to adopt us. That's on us as well.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Like I always jump on the soapbox and say that the typical narrative for this industry of being kind of reticent to adopt technology is not the fault of the technology, apparently not the fault of the brokers themselves or the industry themselves. It's the fault of the technology company, right? Mm-hmm. You have to make something that's easy to use or solve a real problem. And if you're not doing that, then no one's going to use it, and that's it. If you're really solving a real problem and it's super easy to use, it's a great experience, then people will buy. I mean, there's just product market fit's a little bit different of a definition, I think, within commercial real estate than others. But again, it's on us to figure it out.
I think too, and we talked about this earlier, but I mean, folks such as yourself and us, I think a lot of the earlier companies had these founders that thought that they could bring the Uber model, from another industry to the commercial real estate industry. And so you had a lot of founders without industry experience whatsoever, coming in, not understanding like this true symbiotic relationship that is the landlord, tenant, and broker. Right. And I mean, such as yourself, you've walked in broker's shoes. Right. You know that all they have is their time. Right. And so they're not going to want to as much as they want to adopt new technology, you have to show them, yeah, you're going to give me your time, but this is the ROI you're going to have for using me.
Yep. Yeah. I think like the biggest thing I always tell our team is we have to spend half of the sales cycle trying to show the solution, show that we can add value, but half the time we spend with them needs to be talking about how we're going to make it easy for them to get up and running, right? You're going to get up and running in 30 minutes, you'll be on your way and finding value immediately. Like you're so right. Time is the ultimate currency for them. Mm-hmm. It's so funny. I was dealing with a customer earlier today, great user of ours, and he was talking about a different technology company and a couple of new features and sets of functionality, kind of a different part of the market than we play in. And I was like, oh, that's just really interesting. So are you going to use it? He's like, I don't have time. I can't go try to figure that out. And it was just so funny, like to your point, right? I think that Otso does a better job of messaging and branding on LinkedIn and social than really any other prop tech company that I know of. Can you talk a little bit about the motivations behind making that conscious decision to say, hey, we're going to be the social, we're going to be on social, we're going to create an amazing brand and people are going to know us. Can you just talk about the beginnings of that decision process and that journey and what it's meant to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it means a lot for you just to say that about us. Because that is what we set out to do a couple of years ago. And this is my fourth business. Josh, my business partner, this is our second business together, his second business. And one thing, and I think COVID kind of compelled some of this, right? Because we were all twiddling our thumbs when we literally launched right before COVID. So we were caught some of us are caught with our pants down, twiddling our thumbs, like what next? Yeah. And what we realized, and it gave me time to be like, I need to, me as the founder, I have to roll my sleeves up. And I always outsource marketing with my other companies. But I realized one of my biggest lessons is no one's going to learn how to market or sell your business more faster than you as the founder. Sure. And so I wasn't really into social media before. I was very hesitant to putting my face on anything, but quickly realized that no one really else was doing that. And from a perspective of leveraging influencers, I saw, like, we're here at the CREI Summit, right. And we saw this opportunity last year as the first one. And I was like, well, what's more to make friends with some of these influencers? It's working in other industries. And so that was a strategy, that we came to market with to grow our brand quickly, because it's hard to get your brand. And Josh and I sat together and I said, after the first year, I want to have enough people. I don't care if they know what we do, but they'd seen the bear. Right, they'd seen Otso. Yep. And so we worked really hard to just put as much content. And that's how you learn. Right. And that's how we constantly testing different messaging Because if you look closely too, and I think one of the challenges in our industry and as a founder is we all have solutions that drive towards the same value prop in some ways. So the same keywords are used in marketing, right? We're going to make you close more deals. We're going to make you close deals faster.
Yeah.
We're going to, so how do you like not talk about that? Because I know, and I have friends that are brokers, they see that and they're like, ugh, at this point.
Right. I know.
And so we really leaned into education.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we've been so successful is we're putting ourselves out there. We're not selling you anything, but this is what we're learning. On top of it, leveraging influencers to talk about us, combining that with like some massive like education content has been really pivotal for us.
And how do you think about like iterating through your messaging?
Oh man, it's testing on LinkedIn and through ads. Yeah. So we're not like, our approach is not like, oh, let's throw $1 million at Google and just see where it lands, right? And to get the CAC that we want or whatever, and just assume it's going to happen. It's really like throwing stuff at a wall, just seeing if it sticks, which isn't effective of capital. We've been very deliberate about leveraging ads, and so when we want to test something new, figuring out, we have a really good audience groups carved out on LinkedIn at this point because we've grown our audience over the years to be like, let's just throw this out and throw like $100, $200 and see how well it converts. Video at this point, like we're really putting a lot into video and seeing that converting well. So just throwing that out there and through video, storytelling. And I'm realizing that that's so important because it's one thing to talk a value prop when we're selling, we're selling them like, oh, this is how it would help you. Right. It's another thing to tell a story through someone else's perspective through video. It's so powerful. And that's something that's been really like successful for us.
I think that's something that we think about. I think that's something that brokers can take away too, right? From what you're saying. And then also from our perspective, it's we don't want to tell the value prop. We want our customers to tell you the value prop. Let them say it. How much stronger is that going to be? Right?
It's gold, right? Yeah. It's gold in our industry. And that just kind of along the lines of getting influencers to talk about you. It's testimonials are so important right now. I mean, that's like what we spend a lot of capital just trying to get as much testimonials as we can. Yep. But it's not only like those testimonials. When you have an influencer that has thousands of followers, I mean, let's talk about micro influencers. We're commercial real estate, right? But yeah, no, like that. When you have one of those folks, people are just starting to see your name around, and then next thing you know, you've got some deals going on.
One of the unfortunate parts about this industry that there's still one of the unfortunate parts about this industry, there's still a lot of diversity issues, and it's one of the things that I'm so excited about today is seeing women, people of color, people of just different backgrounds actually having a larger voice in the market here, and it's one of the things that I think about as leading innovation here is finally getting diversity of voices to the table to actually have these conversations. I'd love to hear for you and the conversations that you're having with other people in the market that are from diverse backgrounds. What is the advice you give to the younger people that are just coming in that aren't from the typical picture?
Yeah, for just coming in, find a mentor.
Yeah,
that's really the biggest thing. And when you're I mean, and this isn't just minorities, I think it's anybody that's new to any industry, especially in our industry, is you have to find not only a mentor, but find a sponsor. And there's a difference there, right? Mentor being someone that, maybe like walks you through, but a sponsor being someone within your company that's saying your names in rooms when you're not in it, and putting you up front and championing you within to give you those opportunities that you need to succeed.
That's a great answer. How do you think about the market changing from the perspective of the tenant and how they're actually going to be doing deals and things like that? How do you see that changing in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at my notes. I had some notes on that.
Awesome.
So I think from the tenant's perspective, well, obviously with Otso, we help them save capital, so that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I think, and what we're as we're talking to more institutional customers now, there's, especially with the impending market, I don't even think it's going to be like everyone's tightening their belts a little bit because there's all, pending recession. We could say there's a recession even now, technically. So you're looking at a lot less term in deals, right?
Yep.
Less TI, more free rent. I think that's a trend that's going to stick a little bit. I think that because just with COVID, the pandemic, just the virtue of that, so many companies went flex.
Right.
And so I think that's a big thing. And I think amenities too is just a standard, especially in office. But I think amenities, I mean, tenants aren't going to have, and this still happens sadly, but tenants aren't going to have any patience for bad internet. And stuff like that. But it's still around, right?
Right.
And so I think those are some key things that we're seeing.
How do you think the brokerages are going to adapt to that? I mean, that's a completely different business model they're probably going to have to try to figure out. How do you think about that?
I think brokerage, it's tough as a broker right now because I personally think the CRM market's pretty saturated. There's so many solutions out there for the CRMs. And again, all they have is their time. Right. But what I'm hearing from my broker friends and our broker, partners that partner with us is the need for more collaboration tools. There's a lot of good solutions out there. I think that's making, specific to like the retail and how my broker friends, they use various platforms to get information on markets, to show their customers, but there's not as much like collaboration or ease in the user experience on the collaboration part. The whole business is collaboration from a deal standpoint, right? There's so many hats in there, names in the hat that are involved in a deal that have to be informed. And so I think that's an opportunity for sure.
100%. Marissa, thank you so much for joining us today. Such a pleasure to have you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Kurt.
Awesome.
Cheers.